guys, if you just real quick, I'm actually doing this twice. I did this from audio format, and I didn't really get good sound, so I'm going to go ahead and do this for a video because the sound wasn't as good on the video side. So if you listen to this episode on the audio in the YouTube version, it's going to be different, but basically the same point. First of all, I just want to say, since I am doing a video, give a quick shout out to Emily and Ellie Brandon for this awesome grunt style t-shirt they got me for Christmas. I really appreciate that. And I want to tell you guys, I appreciate you guys checking us out on the new Rogueway podcast. And we, obviously, as you know by now, we've changed our brand from CrossWit to Rogueway. So if you hear me say CrossWit a couple of times, old habits die hard. But we are the Rogueway now, and that's what we do. So real quick, what today's episode is, like I said, if you check, you can check out the audio podcast version of this, and it's going to be different. But essentially, what we're talking about today is the feud that is going on between the continuing feud that's heating up between Dana White and Oscar De La Hoya. So Oscar De La Hoya and Dana White, they are both big in their individual promotions. Now, if you don't know who they are, Dana White is the president, founder, CEO, whatever, of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, which is basically the major leagues for mixed martial arts. There's a lot of history with that. Dana White and maybe a couple others, but I would really give him most of the credit, if not all, for taking the Ultimate Fighting Championship when it was a bankrupt and downward spiraling joke to a mainstream organization. Now, before I piss everyone off when I said the joke thing, I'm not talking about the fights. I'm talking about the business aspect of it. There were some major issues with that, and I realized that there were some people out there who were huge fans of the original UFCs and things like that, and I am too. So, and there were some, good fights there, but it's changed a lot, and it's now a mainstream thing. And like I said, essentially, it's the NFL of mixed martial arts. Oscar De La Hoya is, everyone knows who he is from his, legendary boxing career, and he has Golden Boy Productions. And what you have going on is a feud between these two guys, and it's, essentially started, at least heated up recently, over the Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell fight. They are some former Ultimate Fighting champions. They've gotten up there in age. Tito is a couple of years older than me. I think Chuck is pushing 50. And they have a feud that goes back. They fought a few times UFC, twice, I believe. Tito lost both times. So, in essence, without going too much into detail, they wanted to fight again for whatever reasons. They pitched it to Dana White at the Ultimate Fighting Championship at the UFC. Dana White told them to go to hell. There was no way that was ever going to happen. He thought it was bad for Chuck's safety, his age. He just thought it was a bad idea for a lot of reasons. He considers Chuck Liddell a friend of his. After Chuck retired in, I believe, 2011, he put him on salary, asked him to retire because, Chuck is a hard hitter, and he's he'd take any fights, and I think he got knocked out a couple times. And Dana was, says he was actually scared for his safety, so he asked him to retire, and he did that. Well, now they want to fight again, and Dana White is completely against it and said there's not a chance in hell of that happening. So these guys take their fight to other promotions, and they end up at Golden Boy Promotions, which is Oscar De La Hoya's promotion, and he is getting into the MMA. So there's your first issue, is the fact that I don't care what people say, the fact that a prominent boxer is moving into the MMA world, I think, is probably what got the hair standing up. Now, Dana had some respect for, he's a boxing fan, he originally had some respect for De La Hoya, which is obviously completely eroded away at this point. But where things got crazy was when Oscar De La Hoya said, that he would let these guys fight. That burnt Dana White's ass because Chuck's a friend of his, and he told him no, and now some other dude's telling him yes from another, some other famous, person within the fight business. And I'm just to let you know, I refer to Dana White and Oscar De La Hoya as both fighters. And I know that Dana White's not a physical fighter, but the reason why I refer to them as fighters is because they are both in the business of fighting. Okay? I know Oscar is a literal fighter and a businessman, and Dana White's more the businessman, but I'm just saying, these guys are in the fighting culture, so if you hear me refer to them as fighters, that's the context that I'm talking about. So these guys, the things heated up over the Tito and Chuck fight. The Tito and Chuck fight happened, and I think those guys are pretty satisfied with the way they were treated by Golden Boy Boxing or Golden Boy Promotions, and that I'm sure that irritated Dana some more. But so then Dana gets on these on social media and on these talk shows or on these things, and he starts just blasting Oscar, calling him stupid and saying that he was, he's just nothing but a cokehead. He was too dumb and lazy to do anything. I mean, these are fucking personal attacks. These aren't, the guy's not a good businessman. He's got a lot to learn. I think these guys are making a mistake. I mean, he's calling this dude every name in the book. I mean, he is attacking him on a very personal level. Okay, there's no doubt about that. Oscar is, I think, originally pretty damn respectful, and he just kind of blows it off. And he gets on some shows and just talks. Then he starts saying some things which Dana disputes, flat out says they're lies. Brought his homework with him to to counter this on the same show, and starts pointing these things out and saying this is not true. But Oscar was saying things like these guys haven't been paid enough, that Dana White's been taking advantage of them, and that they just really are not getting what they deserve. And that's kind of typical. I mean, that's typical boxing shit, right? I mean, I want you to fight for me. I know I can make some money off of you, so I'm going to say the other guy's not treating you well. I was surprised that pissed Dana White off so much. He really went off the deep end on this. That is just typical business bullshit. He should have just came up there and said, this is some business tactics that Oscar De La Hoya is putting to try to move into the MMA, and I understand it, but it's all bullshit, and here's the facts. That's all he should have done, but he didn't. He got up there, and he starts freaking just saying all this crazy shit and talking shit about this dude, and he's acting like, he's talking about Oscar's on coke. He was the one. I mean, to me, he looked like he was the one on coke. But anyway, so basically that's where we're at. Dana's flipping out. Oscar's lying. This thing is getting out of control. So eventually, word is that Oscar said, hey, we can sell this like men. We can box. And this is where I really get interested in it, because this is kind of the point. At the Rogue Way podcast, we are all about saying the shit that needs to be said that no one else would probably say. Everyone is getting on this thing about how immature and stupid it is for Oscar De La Hoya to challenge Dana White to a fight. Look, I'm just no one listens to me. I'm just a small town podcast wannabe guy, and I realize that my opinion ain't worth very fucking much at all. But here's the thing, why is that stupid? Why is it immature? Why should you be allowed to say whatever the fuck you want on any type of social media platform, behind people's backs, keyboard warrior in it? Why should you be able to do whatever you want and have no accountability? Why shouldn't someone walk up to you and say, hey, you got a big mouth, on the other side of a camera or behind a screen? Why don't we sell this, with our hands? Let's see where you're at there. Now, in the modern society, that's a big no-no, because people think that fighting's not the answer. But I remember when I was in school and we went out and I had problems with, a kid or whatever. We went out in the schoolyard at whatever time and we threw our hands at each other and come out a little bumped and bruised. But at the end of it, there was a mutual respect that had developed. And, honestly, in all my incidents and all my fights, a friendship came out of it. I made friends with the people that I fought with. There's something about that experience and burying that at that time that enables you to move on like, no other way, which to me, it beats pushing stuff down inside and coming back with a gun or paying for years of therapy or whatever, why shouldn't you have to be accountable physically for what you say verbally? We say sticks and stones don't break our bones, but I'm going to tell you something, man. These days with social media, with everything electronic, with how fast information travels and how little we fact check shit, sticks and stones, words may not break your bones, but they can damn sure break you financially. They can destroy your career, and they can do a lot of stuff. So who's to say a dude shouldn't be able to walk up and knock a dude out for saying some shit like that? I personally think he should. So I think it's stupid to say that these guys can't fight. Look, if you don't think they should fight because of their age, there's a lot of old dudes that fight out there. Go to a bar every once in a while. Shit happens. You run your mouth, you freaking get your nose bloody, then maybe you don't fucking run your mouth anymore. Or maybe you do run your mouth, but at least you've proven that, you're going to try to back it up. I think if people were more accountable for what they say these days, then people might say a little bit less about other people. It's tough enough to be able to confront people that talk about you behind your back. I got a lot of experience with this. And, and you can never, it's always he said, she said, no, I didn't say that, this person said this and whatever. And, at some point you're like, you know what, screw all of you. I don't even care. I don't want to deal with any of you. you can't ever get a chance to deal with that. You can talk to the person, whatever, but you'll never really get to the source because no one's going to acknowledge it. But when you have the opportunity where someone is actually saying stuff and you know it's them, they're just doing it from the cover of behind something, then yeah, I think Oscar should be able to walk up to Dana and say, hey, let's get in a ring and see what happens. That's just me. That's what I think. Now, do I think that's ever going to happen? Absolutely not. And do I think there's a business side of this? Yeah, I do. And I'll tell you why. I don't think that Dana White and Oscar De La Hoya are making this shit up and collaborating for promotional purposes, but I think they're going to reap the benefits of it. And I'll tell you why. Now Dana White's talking about getting into boxing, and we know that he has a history. He's a boxing fan. His son's a boxer. We know that that's in his interest, and he's always been into that. And so Dana White's moving into the MMA, and Oscar is moving to the MMA, and Dana White's moving into boxing. And this isn't something that just come up, boxing and MMA crossover. It's interesting. Look at, Conor McGregor, which is Dana's rock star, and Floyd Mayweather, how much their fight, how much that money that made. I mean, that had to resonate in these guys going, you know what? People do want to see people from different martial arts fight. I realized in the old days that's what the UFC was, and then it got everyone's mixed and everything's hybrid, and now it's just guys that are training the same fighting each other. But boxing and striking in martial arts are different. They're different for a lot of reasons. They're different sciences. They're different arts. And I think we're getting to a place back in society where people want to see different martial arts go against each other and see how well these martial artists do against different styles, different rules, or whatever. So there's money in it. So I think that it's a fact. The fighting industry has proven that feuds create interest and draw money and sell tickets, pay-per-views, and they just really build a fan base. They build a demand for it. So these guys are going to feud and they're going to enjoy that. And then who knows? Maybe Dana White's boxing promotion and his UFC are at a constant business feud with Golden Boy's boxing promotions and UFC, and they both reap the benefits of that. Like I said, I don't think they're collaborating necessarily. I do think that they really don't get along, but I also know that they look at numbers and they're both businessmen and they realize that there's obviously a plus to this and money can be made. So I say, let them go into each other's fields, let them fight, let them knock each other out, let's let them do whatever they want, and let's stop telling people that fighting isn't the answer. Sometimes it's the right answer. Sometimes you just need to put your fist to each other's faces and fix some shit instead of just doing this keyboard warrior stuff and hiding behind a monitor or a Twitter account or some anonymous YouTube account or some bullshit like that. So if you disagree with me, that's cool. I appreciate you guys checking out the YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscription button, man. Subscribe. It's free. I need your subscriptions. And we appreciate you following us on all the Rogue Way social media platforms. Everything has changed over now. Podbean is the Rogue Way. Our Instagram, our Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We don't do Snapchat. Look, I got to limit myself to social media. I'm not really that big of a, I don't do that well against a lot of platforms or on a lot of platforms, but we do appreciate your support. Subscribe to this video or subscribe to this channel. Leave a comment on this video. Go to podbean.com, look up the Rogue Way and follow us on there. It's a free app. It's a free podcast. Hit like, share on all of our other platforms, and we appreciate you, and we will see you on the next episode of The Rogue Way. Thanks, guys.